Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this ordinary meeting of Wingecarribee Shire Council on Wednesday, the 17th of April. If I could remind people to turn your mobiles off or onto silent. This meeting is being broadcast and is recorded. Acknowledgement of country. Wingecarribee Shire Council acknowledge the Gundungurra and Tharawal people as the traditional custodians of this land we now call Wingecarribee Shire. I pay my respects to elders both past, present and emerging. I would also like to extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders present here or watching today. Statement of ethical obligations. As Administrator, I will undertake the duties of the Office of Administrator in the best interest of the people of the Wingecarribee Shire Council area and to act faithfully and impartially in carrying out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in me under the Local Government Act or any other act to the best of my ability and judgment. I am committed to the declaration of conflicts of interest in relation to items listed for consideration on the agenda or which are considered at this meeting in accordance with the Code of Meeting Practice and the Code of Conduct. Obviously there are no apologies. Minutes of previous meetings. I would move that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of Council held on 20 March be adopted as a correct record of proceedings of that meeting and declare that carried. Secondly, I would move that the minutes of the extraordinary meeting of Council held on the 27th of March be adopted as a correct record of the proceedings of that meeting and declare it carried. General Manager, declarations of interest.
Yes, thank you, Mr. May. There's one declaration of interest, and that's for myself in relation to item 9.1, Nunangoula Regional Art Gallery funding agreement. The nature of the interest is non-pecuniary, however significant. Following Council's resolution, I have been a member of the Nunangoula Regional Art Gallery Board since April 23. Given the nature of interest in this matter, I will vacate the chambers with the Director Service and Project Delivery to take the General Manager's chair for this item. Thank you.
You advise that it's a
non-pecuniary,
thank you very much. Okay, we now then move to the listed matters. There is no minute this week or this month. We now move to the matters listed for consideration of the Council. The first matter being the draft Robinson Village Place Plan. General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. May. The Executive Manager Strategic Outcomes, Mr. Killick, will introduce this item.
Thank you, General Manager. Mr. May, fellow residents. I'm pleased to put forward our Shire's first Village Place Plan, the Robertson Place Plan, up for adoption today. The Robertson Place Plan pilot project has been ongoing for the past 2 years with extensive community consultation, culminating in the draft Place Plan being put on exhibition in September-October last year. The Place Plan is a holistic, place-based approach to address the housing, environmental, economic, social and cultural needs of Robertson. It really is a consensus building plan and a live plan at that. The Place Plan delivers priorities from our Local Strategic Planning Statement, LSPS, and our Local Housing Strategy. Since the draft, we've taken on board changes and improvements, including clarifying graphics, explaining our implementation approach, tempering expectations with timeframes, emphasising the partnership model for implementation across those different sections of council and across different stakeholders, including specific actions for what we like to call place interventions or big moves. The local planning panel was briefed extensively on the 27th of March 2024, and their advice is appreciated. And we've implemented Advice A in relation to including a proposed heritage conservation area map that is subject to the draft heritage study that is undergoing independent peer review at the moment. The panel's advice B, regarding that consideration be given to further character studies to guide infill development and future LEP and DCP amendments to facilitate development. While the LPP's advice is valued, the need for further character studies is viewed by council professional officers as unnecessary, as they duplicate existing work in the draft heritage inventory and evidence sheets and further delay the implementation of the place plan for especially infill development. In the lead up to today, Robertson residents were spammed with notifications over the past 2.5 weeks, with 3 separate notifications going out. We've created opportunities for both council-initiated LEP DCP amendments and landholder community-initiated amendments via a planning proposal from motivated landholders. I therefore recommend the multi-award winning Robertson Village Place Plan as our Shire's first place plan to be adopted by Council today. And I'll just make one clarification, Mr May. There was a suggestion there were consultants involved. This was a complete in-house project, so credit goes to the Strategic Outcomes team, Council, and of course the residents.
I apologise to you. As you know, I wasn't very happy about the lack of advice to the planning policy. 2 days is not enough, and that's being rectified. And I understand there were technical problems associated with all of that. You say the briefing by the panel, the panel was briefed, but the panel's meeting was very short. When did the briefing take place?
So the briefing was a closed session just before the live session on the 27th of March, and that went for approximately an hour. It was a Teams or a video conference briefing, but a lot of questions were raised and answered, and hence why we have that advice A and advice B from the panel.
So it was a consistent panel. That was what I was worried about.
It was a consistent panel. It was all 4 panel members made the same recommendations.
Yeah. Okay. Can I just make a change to number 3? Instead of having the Strategic Outcomes team write to all those, that's the General Manager's administrative job. I think all persons who made a submission is a better way to put it. Mm-hmm. But that should happen without a resolution of the council. But if you want to put it in, I think it doesn't hurt. No. Just put all persons who made a submission. Declare that carried. And again, I'm sorry about the...
That's okay.
So, Bundanoon, is that happening in-house too?
That will be in-house resourcing.
Well, you got a high bar. Now, next one is interim heritage orders, 48 to 50 Old Hume Highway, Mittagong, and 2 Pioneer Street, Mittagong.
Thank you, Mr May. Back to Mr Killick. Thank you.
Thank you, General Manager. Mr May, this report is to advise Council and the community of 2 interim heritage orders issued by Council that were published in the Government Gazette of 23 February 2024. The interim heritage order for 4850 Old Hume Highway, Mittagong, and 2 Pioneer Street, Mittagong, were issued after we became aware of proposed demolition of both houses via a privately certified CDC or complying development certificate, which is the state government's fast track approval pathway under the complying development policy. Both properties were recommended for heritage listing in the draft heritage study that is currently undergoing independent peer review. It's important to note the draft heritage study is just that, a draft, which means the sites were not afforded any statutory protection to guard against the use of CDC demolitions. These two orders were recommended by council professional officers due to the imminent threat to the sites from demolition CDCs issued by private certifiers. Unfortunately, due to the publishing cycle of the Government Gazette, the interim heritage orders could not be issued before the demolition of house at 4850 Old Hume Highway, Mittagong, by that privately certified CDC. There's an ongoing DA for this site, and it would be inappropriate for me to comment further on the statutory assessment considerations. 2 Pioneer Street, Mittagong, is afforded protection for 6 months thanks to the interim heritage order. Council is recommended to note the interim heritage orders for now, and that further reports would be handled via the local planning panel when the peer-reviewed draft heritage study is intended to be reported in late May 2024.
You can't say it, but I will. If the council had done its job properly in 2013, there's every chance that house would not have been demolished.
It would have been protected if it was heritage listed.
Another legacy matter. But anyhow, it's gone, and you can't blame the current administration for the actions of the past. And I understand the cycles of government gazettes and everything else. You do your best, but unfortunately, if you're cleaning up, it's difficult. In relation to item 8.2, I'd move the officer's recommendation outlined on page 18 of the business paper and declare that carried. 8.3, General Manager, Department of Housing Infrastructure, short and long-term rental accommodation.
Thank you, Mr. May. And last item, Mr. Kellick. Thank you.
Thank you, General Manager. Mr. May, this report provides an overview of the Department's discussion paper on short and long-term rental accommodation and presents a draft submission. The discussion paper is a response to the housing crisis being experienced across New South Wales and the nation, the deterioration of housing affordability and the rise in short-term rental accommodation. The Housing SEP, or State Environmental Planning Policy 2021, provides an exempt approval pathway for both hosted and non-hosted short-term rental accommodation. The paper acknowledges that a balanced approach is required to recognise the benefits for local tourism while addressing societal impacts via both planning regulations and revenue policies. We recommend support for strengthening the exempt approval pathway for short-term rental accommodation. However, with model clauses in our LEP, our Local Environmental Plan, to better manage hosted short-term rental accommodation under 60 days per year. We also support the introduction of land use terms for non-hosted short-term rental accommodation of 60 days plus per year, where premises are run as commercial businesses. We support the continuation of the New South Wales Government's short-term rental accommodation register and its expansion for better data collection, as well as revenue support for Council's compliance and enforcement teams. Therefore, Council is recommended to endorse the draft submission, highlighting our support of the review and seek a balanced approach to better regulating short-term rental accommodation in this state.
Look, I think this is a very clear and concise report. I'm amazed by the number of properties, but maybe I shouldn't be with the trouble I had getting accommodation for long term. But I think it's very clear, it's concise, it's a good submission to make on behalf of the council. In relation to item 8.3, I'd move the officer's recommendation 1 and 2 as outlined on page 46 of the business paper and declare that carried. General Manager, the Regional Art Gallery funding agreement, you're vacating.
The Acting Director Corporate Strategy and Resourcing, Mr. Kuzmanovsky, will introduce this item.
Thank you, Director. The purpose of this report is to seek Council's direction for the proposed funding agreement between Council and Nunangoula Regional Art Gallery. The current funding agreement expires on 30 June 2025. As at the December 2022 Council meeting, a report was tabled to formalise the funding agreement through a deed between Council and Nunangoula, which flagged a review commencement date of 31st August 2023 to provide adequate time for negotiations between Council and Nunangoula as the existing deed expires at the end of June 2025. The report provides three options: the existing arrangement of $500,000 per annum fixed, Option 2, which is providing an index contribution starting at $620,000, and Option 3 being the core funding submission proposal by Nunangoula. Details of each of the options are outlined in the report. The recommended option is 2. In covering off the matter that was discussed in public forum about recurring funding, I found the resolution, and just to read the resolution for the purpose of the meeting, is at the 19th of September 2018 Council meeting, point 2 of the resolution reads that Council confirms its in-principle support for a commitment of $500,000 per annum as a contribution on behalf of Wingecarribee Shire Council for a period of 5 years towards the proposed independent gallery's operational costs, to be reviewed in the 5th year, subject to the following matters being confirmed or provided as stipulated to the satisfaction of Council, and then there's a whole heap of sub-points underneath that. Thank you.
Thank you. And in your view, have all those reasons been complied with?
That is correct. They were incorporated into the deed, and we have worked closely with the gallery to ensure that they've been met.
And in addition, the General Manager is now on the board.
Correct.
Yeah. Look, for those who missed the dialogue that took place during open forum, I suggest you watch it again. I can't argue with anything that was put before us, and I think it's a credit to those who have championed this facility. My issue relates to, in effect, being a caretaker to keep the council going and to change the direction to a degree of the council and to refocus its attention to community. But the thing that worries me is I have been pretty consistent in not binding a future council on finance, except where necessary or except where I thought it's necessary to accelerate things. An incoming council may have a different view on some of this stuff and different priorities. Having said that, the extra monies are a lot of money, and there are competing needs. There's the question of other issues that the council needs to address, and I'm also very conscious that hard-working volunteers, and I always say you never poke a volunteer in the eye, have created this fabulous facility, not only for this community, but for the wider state and, as was indicated, some interstate visitors. Look, having said that, in speaking to the CFO a few minutes ago, I was going to suggest that we continue the grant for another 2 years to give you some continuity so that the incoming council can address that question. I don't really want it to become an election issue, but if it does, it does. I can't control that. I'm sure there'll be many election issues. But I don't want to bind an incoming council, but at the same time, I don't want to cause problems for the continuing existence of this fantastic facility. So I'd originally thought increase it for 2 years, but the CFO tells me it would be more appropriate to increase it for 3 years, but in the knowledge that at the end of the current arrangement, the new council can review that and increase it if they want to. But that'll be a matter for them. So I'm going to move To ensure that council complies with its obligations under the deed, annual contributions of $500,000 be paid to the gallery for the 25/26 26, comma, 26/27 and 27/28 financial years, and the matter be the subject of review in conjunction with the 25/26 budget process. Now, before I put the motion, that in effect leaves you no worse off than where you are at the present time. And it affords you the opportunity during the 25/26 budget process to, in effect, lobby, and during the election process if you want to lobby, and it ensures that, you know, I've stuck by my principle of trying not to commit the council unless I have to or unless I want to accelerate things. So I will declare that carried. Done. Next item, I need the General Manager. You're right. 9.2, the quarterly delivery program and budget review to the 31st of March. Before you pass over to the acting director, could I just compliment the council staff across the whole organisation for what I think is a very, very easy read, and it takes the finances down to level 4, which is what I've been asking for. It has the staffing in there. Everything I've wanted is now there, which I think is good news. General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. May. Before I hand over to the Acting Director, Corporate Strategy and Resourcing, just to note your comments and appreciated the team, the whole leadership team have worked hard to refine and make as clear as possible the financials as well as the operational plan, and you'll see the progress that's been made to date. I would note that in relation to the recommendation point 7, we've called out some of the delays in payments with the DFRA, the disaster funding, and the Acting Director will touch on this, no doubt. We had another severe weather event 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, and we're one of the local government areas with the highest natural disaster declarations over the last few years. And this is taking a toll on our infrastructure as well as our finances. I would acknowledge and thank the New South Wales Reconstruction Authority for their responsiveness following the severe rain event a week and a half ago. And also in discussions with them, I've raised the Illawarra Highway issue that we've had is highlighted in recommendation 7, and they're expressed an openness to assist us in securing those outstanding payments, which is heartening. So I'll now hand. Yes.
And over, so you took the lead on this. Can I just understand that one of the problems relates to the fact that because of the emergency, you used day labour in business hours rather than say you can all whistle until after hours when we have to pay double time or time and a half to do the work. In short, is that...
I'd express it differently, but what I would say is under the guidelines, the process does not assist, I believe, local government and communities in responding effectively. And it is something I think that the state and federal government have acknowledged. There's an inquiry at the federal level in terms of severe weather impacts on local government infrastructure nationally, and they acknowledge the system needs improvement, and I think the actions and the responsiveness of New South Wales Reconstruction have also demonstrated that. But you are correct. I think at the moment the guidelines and the framework in which we have to operate does not assist councils in responding efficiently to the community's needs at the time. And hence why we've had some issues in reclaiming the money that we've needed to spend at the time of the emergency to make roads safe, to make the environment safe for our community. There have been challenges associated with that. No, that is correct. So when the sinkhole appeared on the Illawarra Highway, we assisted in providing a detour through Burrowing in the interests of keeping traffic and supporting the community during that time. That has caused some issues within the current framework that we're working within, but as I said, Reconstruction Authority has been very open to having that conversation and working with us, and I appreciate that.
Oh, I understand a new page has been turned.
So over to the Acting Director, Mr. Kuzmanowski. Thank you.
I'll just be conducting a presentation here, so just as we bring that up, to give an update on the quarterly progress of Council's operational plan and budget position for the period 1 January 2024 through to the end of March. So just breaking it down into 3 components, which is addressing our operational plan and how we're tracking during the March quarter, but we'll also give an update on where we are at a financial position, covering off some of the key movements, and then give an update on where we are from a grants perspective. So without further ado, as a holistic, this is where we're landing at our operational budget performance and deliverables in our operational plan. So combined 69% are either progressing on track or completed. And as you can see, there are 4 due not to start, 2% not due to start, 2% on hold, and there's about 17% progressing behind schedule. We are looking at resourcing behind the scenes of that to make sure we can bring those into line to progress them back on track for the final quarter. Just an alternate view by our community strategic plan themes, just looking at the breakdown of how we're tracking through each one of our community strategic plan themes. Just some key highlights in each one of our community strategic plan themes. So this is the leadership one. So just taking this through in terms of digital services. So one of our key highlights is we are now tracking, Council has invested in a long-term contract with Technology One to move from a CI to a CI Anywhere. So that is a basic version to a more web-based version. So we've commenced proceedings on that to start moving a lot of the functionality into the enhanced version of that software platform. The other key deliverable during the quarter was preparations for the September 2024 local government elections, and the development of comprehensive councillor induction program are underway. Future candidate information sessions are scheduled for the 8th of May and 12th of June this year. Just looking at our people theme. So the people theme here, we've got a mural projects across the Shire and digitising local studies collections. So looking at the murals, Council has collaborated with community organisations to implement 8 mural projects in multiple locations across the Shire, including recent partnerships with Community Links Wellbeing to co-design a mural at Mossvale High School, engaging with youth participants under the mentorship of esteemed artist Ben Quilty through the Reframe Youth Program, marking the completion of this initiative. In regards to the digitisation of local studies collection, a total of 330 maps from the local studies collection were digitised and stored with the library, with 200 maps initially digitised and an additional 130 maps discovered during the project. This was made possible through the additional funding provided through the Friends of Wingecarribee Library. Just going through the places theme, so Council has launched its new application tracker, which provides access to current development applications, enabling stakeholders to monitor progress of development applications. Additionally, councils can choose to follow specific DAs to receive digital milestone progress updates throughout the application process, make public submissions online directly through the tracker, and upload supporting documentation or image files as needed. So again, moving through this digitisation theme that Council is working through in trying to move into the 21st century. The last one of this point was a comprehensive design of the Mossvale sewage treatment plant has been finalised and will be talked about today at today's council meeting. Finally, in the environment theme, Council has rolled out the Mobile Community Recycling Centre as a convenient solution for responsible waste disposal in the Wingecarribee Shire region, promoting environmental sustainability. Over the past 6 weeks, the Mobile Community Recycling Centre has successfully processed 155 drop-offs, including items like motor oil, cardboard and gas bottles, totalling 2.2 tonnes of problem wastes. Lastly is around the environment theme, around reducing better protecting wildlife. So particularly in the koala risk area, Council has installed 4 vehicle activated signs along Tourist Road in Kangaloon, Tuggalong Road in Canyon Lee, and Old Hume Highway in Yirrambul. Also, the koala marketing toolkit proofs have been finalised and community questionnaires have been received for distribution and promotion, aligning Council's effort to reduce koala deaths from roadkill. The economy, so touching on the economy, the Australia Day festivities welcome more than 4,000 attendees, featuring lively entertainment, classic cars and local businesses, with 31 conferees making their pledge at the Australia Day ceremony with honoured notable individuals such as, and pardon the pronunciation, Uda and Dennis Purcell, named as Wingecarribee's 2024 Citizens of the Year, and Mackenzie Isdale, recognised as Young Citizen of the Year, with Ms Robina Beard, OAM, leading celebratory Grand Parade. Council has also concluded the exhibition phase of the Community Heritage Study with 232 submissions received, which identified prospective additions to heritage items and conservation areas alongside extensions to existing conservation zones, with ongoing independent reviews underway. Okay, now into the finances. So Council's working funds position, as we can see, we have landed at the same position as we have last time, above just over the $6 million mark, well in excess of the $5 million benchmark that we've set a couple of years ago. Just looking at some of the key movements in balancing the budget for this time round, we can see, and I'll talk through some of the details, but these are some of our key movements through the budget, just to demonstrate transparency that we are moving things around to make sure that we are looking at the books to make sure that things are funded adequately. Just touching on some of the key income points, we did have a reduction in user fees and charges just in relation to reduced tonnages at the RRC, $223,000 increase in other revenues relating to an insurance matter at our Southern Regional Livestock Exchange, and $211,000 in other capital grants, including contributions towards from the Highlands Theatre Group to partially funds the Welby Oval Shed. In terms of operating expenditure, through our council, we go through each quarter to make sure that we could pare back some of our salary and wages savings as demonstrated through the document and the quarterly review. We do have a number of savings. So as we don't feel those savings, we use them to offset other expenditure. There was a decrease in $1 million of expenditure relating to the bulky waste collection. Again, this goes back into the domestic waste reserve, can't be spent on general revenue. I won't go through the rest of them. I won't go through the rest of the points verbatim, but they are there for the public record. Just with some capital expenditure adjustments, just the high level ones here of a $720,000 increase for the purchase of 132 Burradoo Road associated with the upgrade of Bowral Sewage Treatment Plant, and $223,000 to replace IT equipment at the Southern Regional Livestock Exchange. So that was offsetting against some of the additional revenue we received, mentioned in the previous slide. Just give a grants update now. So just again covering our grant debtor position. So essentially these are works where council have funded the works up front and we are seeking funding reimbursement from the bodies through a debtor arrangement. So covering off the top 4 points there, that we've got the disaster recovery funding arrangement, still have an $8.9 million debtor outstanding with the disaster recovery with Transport for New South Wales. And touching on some of the smaller grant debtors there, we've got a main contract for a grant there at the Southern Regional Livestock Exchange and Safer Road programs at Old South Road and Renewal Program. Council staff will continue working with those bodies to ensure the quaddles are conducted effectively so we can get those funds in a timely manner. Just at a high level summary, grant applications during the quarter, we were successful with 3 grant applications, being approximately $1.7 million. We did have some funding variations throughout the quarter of approximately $400,000, and we still have $13 million worth of pending grant applications as at the end of March 2024. Just an update on Mittagong Playhouse. So again, we are still waiting on an outcome of Mittagong Playhouse. So indicative timeline, outcome was expected during the month of March. We are still waiting on a response for that. Being a large grant application, one of our largest pending grant applications, I thought we'd flag this with council that we're still waiting on an outcome. Just some grant successes that we've got during the quarter. So we received a grant for Youth Week. It was a co-contribution grant that council have to look at running a series of workshops and activities to help marginalised young people to deliver youth-led community projects. $1.5 million from New South Wales Flood and Recovery Resilience Program. This was in relation to... All good? No, you're all right. That's fine.
Just do that for a minute, I'll get it.
That's fine, thank you.